Good morning, afternoon, whatever time zone everyone is in. We have Dee Greene here. He's the founder of Undeterred, an entrepreneur that is launching a community based on his social media. He's really, really, really honed in, being vulnerable and showing you guys what it takes to have an online community. I think he's been great at showing us how you can start from nothing and then just scale and showing you the hardships. But in addition to that, the reason why I brought Dee Greene is he's found the love of his life recently. And the purpose of this is to interview entrepreneurs on the dynamics of relationships. So we're going to cover a bit about him, his background, how he got here today, and cover how he is managing the dynamics of his relationship as an entrepreneur. So Dee, welcome. I hope,
What's up, bro?
how's it going?
Man, it's going, bro. Like we were talking about before we got on here, but I think that's one of the reasons why, which we'll talk about. I named my brand Undeterred because it's about like you just got to persevere despite what's going on. But it's one of those like you said it perfectly. You're like, yo, you're just getting. It seems like you're just getting punch after punch after punch after punch. And you're like, yo, what the hell is going on? But I mean, there's a lot to be thankful for at the same time.
How about tell the audience a little bit about your business? What is Undeterred and how did you get started and what motivated you to, start your own business?
So basically, I started Undeterred back in 2019, actually, I think, as a clothing line. So I had the first business I ever started was when I was in college. And when I was in college, I started like a clothing line. This was like the first business that I ever had. It was called 12, 12 Plus. And and like I had to learn all the marketing, I had to learn like being an entrepreneur, all this stuff. But once I graduated, it just like wasn't really making money. So like all my family's like, yo, you got to get a job, you got to get benefits, you got to do all this stuff. So I shut that down and I was trying to go like the regular route, like getting a job and doing all this type of stuff. And then I started learning marketing. I started like making money online. So then in 2019, I was like, man, I really want to have like a clothing line. I want to try this again. I was living in Florida at the time, and at this point, which I'm sure we'll talk about as well, I got married in 2018. So 2019, we have been married like a year. So I remember telling my wife, I was like, "Yo, let's go to Texas Roadhouse actually, and let's take a notepad and let's just like brainstorm ideas like for like this brand." So we're looking up like synonyms and different things, and I came across like undeterred, and the definition of undeterred means to persevere despite setbacks. So I was like, man, I really like that name because that's what I had to do to get to where I am at that point. To go a little bit back farther than that, 2018, so like a year before that, I went to the Bahamas with my wife, and then she had a daughter before she met me, and we went on a cruise. So when I'm on this cruise, I'm like, man, this lifestyle is amazing. This is the type of life that I want to live, that I want to have. It's like I got to like figure out how to do this one day. So when I came back, I'm looking at like I was on like Groupon, looking at like going to different places, and I saw like you could go to Italy, you could go to blah blah blah, and I was like, man, we could go to Paris, and it's not as much as I thought. So like that would be cool. Like I'll take my girl to Paris, and that'd be a good trip. So as I was looking into it, I was like, man, if I'm gonna go to Paris, like I should just propose. I already knew like that was a like she was the one I wanted to marry. So at the time, I had like no money. I didn't really have any income. She didn't have a passport. I didn't have a ring. Neither one of us had barely been overseas. And I was like, if I give myself like a year or 2 years, like it's not gonna happen. Like I'm too it that's like too much time. Like I need to give myself a shorter I need to have like a deadline, but it can't be too long. So it was like 70 days or something like that. I bought a notebook, and I remember like I was just like, man, I'm sick and tired of like hearing everybody else say like I did it, you could do it too. Like you turn on the TV, the people you look up to, they always say that. Uh, music, wherever, like anytime people are successful, they always say that same thing. And I was like, but everyone around me is not doing it too. Like they give up when things get hard, or they don't chase it. And then if you tell them that you want to do something big, they just tell you to give up. And like before that, like I wanted to have the clothing line as a business. I gave up on that. I wanted to be like in the NBA. I got like a scholarship for college, but I didn't end up doing anything with that. I wanted to be like a rapper and producer, and I hadn't done that. So it was like all these big dreams that I have, I never achieved them. And if I go through the rest of my life, living like all the people around me, like I'm never gonna know what that feels like. So I bought this journal and I was like, I'm gonna journal the process of trying to pull this off. And my only promise to myself is I'm never gonna write that I gave up. I just want to see what happens. So if no matter what happens, if I just don't give up, like what will happen? And I remember I got like an eviction letter, and I was like, it doesn't matter. Like the money is going towards this. I want to see what happens. The guy that I was getting like the ring from, his I think it was like his mom died, and he had to go to like Brazil. So like I didn't know if I was going to be able to get the ring, and like all this stuff was happening. It just felt like an impossible situation. And eventually, like at the last minute, like I remember I went to go check the mail, which I like almost never do. And like you never have mail unless it's like junk. And then like nowadays we pay everything online, so I'm like I don't ever check the mail. I had a letter from the IRS, and they're like, "Oh, we messed up on your taxes." So I had like extra money. Like I ended up getting all these different types of things, and I ended up, we ended up going to Paris. I ended up proposing in front of the Eiffel Tower, and like that experience to me was like, if you just don't give up, like you can achieve like big things. And so the next year, I was like, that word describes that situation perfectly. Like that's what I had to do. So it's like I want to create a clothing line that will basically like help people. But I still wasn't really familiar with like clothing lines or messaging and all this type of stuff. So I put it out there, it did decent, but I was like, I'm selling a shirt for like $20. And then it's not like, even let's say if you have a membership that's $20, like that's at least recurring. But it's like I have to buy all of the stuff in advance. I was really picky with like how I wanted stuff to look. So sometimes I would even sew like the tags on themselves. So I was like, I have to spend like a lot of money up front. And then if I don't sell it, it's sitting around, then I have to have enough to buy it in bulk. Like it was just very hard. So uh, it just wasn't really going anywhere. So the next year, 2020, I was like, man, I want to have like an online business that allows me to travel. That was like my thing. I was like, man, if I can make 10K per month, I'll be able to travel the world. That's really what I want to do. So same thing is like I didn't know how to have an online business. I had no idea like what I was going to sell, and like obviously we could go like in depth on that, but like that was a super hard thing. So many times I wanted to give up. So many times where I was just like, bro, this sucks. And then like the pandemic hit. It was just crazy. And then I guess like since we're talking about like our partners and our spouses and stuff, like I remember there was a day where I was just like, I'm just gonna like I'm not gonna do this anymore. This is stupid. And my wife was like, we're not gonna let like a bill stop us from like achieving your dream. Like, bro, if the lights go off or you can't pay the rent, like we'll just figure it out. But like don't let that be the reason that you just give up. So I was like, I'm already down for that. But I didn't want to put you in that situation. But if you're down for that, then let's get it. So after that, like slowly things started taking off. And within like by the end of the year, like we had like a six-figure business. So at that point, it's like, okay, instead of just traveling, let's become digital nomads. So we moved to Mexico, lived there for a while, moved to Colombia. I lived in Budapest, Turkey. I was just living in Albania not too long ago. Now I'm in Morocco, here in Africa. And as I've been traveling, especially because you're in the US, right?
No, right now I'm actually in Mexico.
Oh, okay. You're from Mexico.
No, I'm from the US. I'm from California, but I met my wife here in Mexico. So
She's from Mexico.
yeah, I live in a city called Merida in the Yucatan Peninsula.
Yeah, I never went there, but I lived in Playa del Carmen, but I never went to Merida.
We're
But
neighbors. We were.
yeah, I know of it. So as I've been traveling, especially people outside of the U.S., and maybe you because since you're from the U.S., in the U.S., I think it's a misconception that everyone is like just killing it and everybody has like a go-getter mindset. And I'm like, bro, our country is so big. Everyone's not like that. But the country is so big that we do have a lot of successful people and we do have more of I can do it mindset because we're surrounded by like a lot of winning. As I started traveling, I realized a lot of people that I talk to, like they either aren't chasing their dreams or they've given up on them because it got too hard. And a lot of the time, sometimes it was legit, but a lot of times I was like, these are just excuses that if this person was undeterred, like they would be able to achieve these dreams. Like if I could literally just put my brain in their brain, like they would be doing so much more in their life. And I was like, I can't just go to a coffee shop with everyone in the world. It's not effective. I can't get on a Zoom call with everyone. Even doing like this podcast is great, but that only does so much. Like I got to be able to have a way that I can actually like help them on a day to day, weekly, monthly basis. So that's the idea of the membership. And that even took a long time to figure out like what the heck I'm doing with that. What's the messaging? But essentially I was like, I want to have a membership where it's like you can come in there with your dream and you get the support that you need to make sure you don't give up like along the way. And so that's what the brand is about. And so, right, like my goal now is to help people all over the world. Like, you don't have to be some rich person. You don't have to be born in America. You don't have to, like, whatever your situation is. Like, I want to help you. You come in, you say like what your dream is, and like you have support from other people. You have support from me. There's a online course that I created that's like, here's how to actually be undeterred. Here's everything that I learned that helped me be undeterred. You have a community where you can ask questions every day. I do like a motivational voice note or video, and then a challenge to help you practice being undeterred. So I'm just like, man, if I can go around the world and help people with this, I think it would change a lot for a lot of people. And then right now I'm doing like daily YouTube vlogs. So like for example, yesterday, the vlog I posted today, I talked with the lady here in Morocco that had cancer that just like not just but like within the past couple of years like beat it, and now like she has a dream of being like a photographer. So it's like being able to not just be somebody that you see on social media, but it's like, bro, like if I'm in Morocco, I'm not just creating content, like I'm in person, like talking to people. Me and my boy Taylor, he came here from Albania. He's from the US too, but we were in Albania together, and he just came to visit here in Morocco. And there's a guy that owns a burger shop here. His name is Bassam. He owns a Burger Glory that's like 2 minutes from my house. And Taylor worked in restaurants. He kills it with like content in Albania. He gets like hundreds of thousands of views. And so we've been helping Bassam with his dream because he's like, man, I'm Moroccan. Like, we don't have a lot of money. How am I going to have a franchise? Like, this is so hard. And Taylor, being that he's worked at a lot of like big franchises, is like, yo, try this, 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 and this. And then yesterday when we went there, like the guy had to turn away people because he's like, yo, we're selling out. And like people were coming again and again and again. It's like, yo, like I don't like we're sold out. You got to come back in like an hour. And so like that's the thing I want to do. Like I know like he personally told me the guy here, like, bro, there's times where I was just gonna shut the shop down. And it's like being able to have someone that understands your dream, that really cares about what you're doing, like it helps you keep going. And so I think for me, I told my wife, I was like, bro, if I die or if I die before you, obviously you can be sad that I'm not here, but don't be sad for me because I already achieved like all the stuff that I wanted to. Like I'm from Indiana. So being where I'm at now, I never thought was possible. And so now it's about how can I help like the other people around the world. I think, for example, there's a lot of people that will listen to your podcast and what you're doing. And unfortunately, a lot of people will nod their head and be like, yo, this is great information. But then they go back to living the same life. You know what I mean? And it's like, I hate that. And it's like, man, if I can actually like kind of hold their hand and be like the person that's like, all right, like these people are giving you really good information. You have the tools, you have the resources, you have the knowledge. Now let's make sure like nothing stops you. Like that's what I want to do. And actually have personal relationships with people that are in Mexico, that are in, uh, you know, Morocco, that are in Albania, and be able to speak the languages too. You know what I mean? Like be able to speak Spanish, be able to speak French, be able to speak Albanian, whatever it is, and like really, really help people. Like that's the vision.
No, that's incredible, man. It brings up. I'm gonna say a couple things, then I'll ask you the questions to build up. You went from having a initial clothing business that didn't really work out to potentially getting outside voices, family, friends, to making a decision to having a job. You decided to take the risk because you got inspiration for others to do it. On top of that, you went from hardship, not making any money at first, to then grabbing your notebook and making sure that you never write, I won't, or I gave up. You told yourself, I never gave up. On top of that, then you got an eviction notice, still decided not to give up and do normal route, getting the job into making a six-figure business, traveling the world, traveling to Mexico, Colombia, Budapest, Turkey, Morocco. What do you think keeps you going? Do you think it's motivation? Is it discipline? Is it purpose? What do you think has caused you to be undeterred to continue going? Because right now I mean, you're very young and you're still at the beginning stages as an entrepreneur, and you're still going to have to keep going and keeping this undeterred mindset. What do you think it is that fuels you to keep, this going? And you ask this as inspiration for others, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think it's I can answer it in one answer, but I'll kind of explain how I got to the answer that I'll give you. That way there's
Okay.
more context. So me proposing to my wife in Paris was like how I learned how to be undeterred. Like, oh, there's a process. There's certain things that if I do this every time, like I can overcome challenges. Now, when I was born, my mom was, how do I word this? So my mom was only 15 years old when she was pregnant with me, when she had me. So her birthday's in December, mine's in January. She was like 16 and like a month because her birthday's December 1st, mine January 2nd. So like a month of being 16 when she had me. So I never met my dad before. And when I was like 8 years old, my sister was born, but her dad was in prison. So she didn't meet her dad. And my mom was dating this other guy. And this could be like a super long story. Like someone can like that would be like a whole podcast episode on its own. But it was a very bad like child abuse situation to where it's like I was like choked, I was punched, I was like knives were pulled out, like all these types of things, and like verbal abuse of like, oh, you're never gonna be shit, no one likes you, da da da. So there were so many times where I was like praying to like not be in that situation as a kid, as a 9 year old, 10, 11, and just having to be mentally strong, but also just praying like, God, like I don't want to be in this situation. This sucks. You know what I mean? This is terrible. So when I was 14, me and him got in like a, not like a fight, but like an altercation basically. And later, like like I ran away, then I came back. Then a couple of days later, we got into an argument, and he's like, "I don't like that you live here." So I was like, "All right." I called my aunt and uncle, told them about the situation. Next day, I went to school. I thought it was like a regular day, and it's like after lunch, and this lady comes into my classroom, and she's like, "Yo, you got to check out to all of your classes because you have a flight to Indiana." We were living in Texas at the time, and I was like, I didn't know what was going on, but my aunt didn't want me to be in that situation, so she booked me a flight. She told my mom like, "Hey, he can just come live with us." And so now it comes to my answer of like what keeps me, I think, undeterred is like the day that I had that flight, I felt everyone was like, "Yo, it must be hard for you to live without your mom." Like, bro, this is like the best feeling ever. Like that environment was so toxic. And it's like not that I don't love my mom, but that environment that I was in was extremely difficult. And so I felt like I got like a new opportunity at life. Like it's kind of like if you got sentenced to life in jail and life in prison, and then 6 years in, they're like, "Oh, hey, by the way, like we're just gonna let you out." You have two choices. You can live the rest of your life upset that you had to do those 6 years, which kind of ruins the rest of your life because now you're just only talking about that 6 years, and you could live 50 years, 60 years, 70. Or you could say, man, I was supposed to do my whole life in prison and not be able to do anything. I could make the most of this. So for me, I made a promise to myself and to God where I was like, I'm not going to waste like the rest of my life. I'm not going to get to when I die, if there is a God, and be like, I wasted all that talent that you gave me, and all the people that you wanted me to help. Like I just didn't do it, and I was only focused about me. So for me, that's what it's about. It's like I can't die with all these ideas and all of these skills and all of this potential just take it to the grave with me. It's like I have to make as big of an impact as possible because I made that promise like to myself, years ago when I was when I was like 14 of like now that I have this opportunity and I'm not in that situation. And I think as a kid, it's like I know that a lot of people could have gave up as a kid. And now they're not doing anything because, oh, well, my childhood was hard and I grew up in this and that. And so I'm like, man, I've been through so many things to be where I'm at now. It's like I know what it also feels like to not have anybody care because that's how I felt during those times. I'm like, bro, I'm getting like punched and kicked, and I can't go to school because I got bruises on me, and it's like nobody cares. And I feel like there's a lot of people that feel like that. And I'm like, man, if I know that I could be that person that could help so many people that are going through that, and they could do bigger things. And so for me, knowing that, it's like I have to do that. So I think it's not about the money, it's not about the followers, it's not about, I feel like I've had all that stuff. Now it's more about like the impact. Like there has to be like an impact as big of as much as I can make, like with people around the world.
Wow, thanks for sharing that, man. That is quite the journey. And it also brings up a question. I share this just to share a little bit with you about me. And this is where I'm heading with the question, but I'm wondering why we feel like when we go through the shit and it just like I think it would be natural and normal to I don't know if hate life or hate maybe hate people. I wonder what it is it born within us that we become grateful that we got out of this and we carry this mentality to make an impact and help others because we know how much they suffer. We know how much it sucks and you want to get out. And it's like, do you think, and this is more personally for me because I'm learning a lot about you too and myself just from what you spoke about. Like, do you think it's we're grateful from a gift from God because you say that you pray to God, so I bring it up. Do you think it's like a gift that maybe He gave us that we're grateful for, or where do you think that comes from? That urge, because it would be normal for us to just say, "Oh, I can just do me, and that's it. Like screw everybody else." But no, it's like, fuck no, I don't want people to suffer this way.
That's a really good question. And I think like figuring out that answer has helped me understand other people. For example, I used to be kind of frustrated with my mom because I'm like, how the hell did you let all that stuff happen back then? And how did you not do X, Y? And like now that I have a step daughter, it's like I would never treat her like this. But I'm like, I've realized the reason that we do anything in life is based on how we think. And how we think is based on the information that goes into our mind. So some of that is like God just blesses you with the ability to be more thankful, more happy, whatever. And the other is like we're consuming different types of content. My mom didn't have Instagram parenting tips popping up on her feed. You know what I mean? She didn't have YouTube videos. You didn't have Netflix that tells you. So it's like, it's not like I wouldn't say she did the absolute best that she could, but it's like with the knowledge and the information that she had, she didn't wasn't exposed to the stuff that I had. So it's not like, hey, I'm just a better parent than you because it's just me. It's like other people were talking to me and I was consuming content that you didn't have access to. And I think it's the same thing. Like if me and you are having this conversation right now, that's going to impact both of our lives. And then the people that are listening to this is going to impact their lives. But the people that don't listen to this episode, like they're not going to have that. And so I would assume over time, me and you have consumed content that's about like, bro, you got to do more with your life. You got to make money. It's more about freedom. It's more about purpose. And then I consume certain content that you didn't. You consume certain content that I didn't. And so like that, it's more like a recipe. And then because of our personalities, like we will also act differently on the information that we have. So I think for me, it was just like I wasn't always that way, but I started realizing like I think in life you can either be right or you can be happy, you know? And a lot of people are fighting so hard to be right. It's like, yeah, but the reason I'm like this is because my parents, they didn't treat me good. And it's like, so you're just that's going to be your story for the rest of your life because it's not that you're wrong. Yeah, they shouldn't have treated you like that. It's a shame that you had to go through that, but what is that? That doesn't do anything for you. Just complaining about that and even being right about that. So what I said is like, I want to be a person that is able to achieve my dreams. How do I do that? You got to forgive people. You got to focus on like what I'm capable of. You got to let go of the past. You got to focus on the future. So it's like I was just like these are the things that I want to be able to do. And then that leads you on a journey of like, well, how do I do that? So then you got to get self-development books. You watch certain YouTube people, certain Instagram. Then you have for me, I've lived in like I think 6 or 7 or 8 countries, so it's like those conversations in person. So it's like you're just mixing all those up, and I think all of that essentially kind of is like a gift from God because it's like you're the like our connection, like we connected is not necessarily something we were trying to do intentionally. It just happened, you know. So sometimes it's like God is putting the right people in your path, or He puts the right book in your path, or the right podcast episode, or whatever it is, or you happen to be alive while that person is creating YouTube videos. And then I think it's up to us to take action. Like that's why I said like a lot of people listen to podcast episodes and they just nod their head and they're like, oh, I needed to hear that. And it's like needing to hear that never changed anyone's life. Acting on it will, but just shaking your head in the car or while you're on a run does not, it's not going to do anything for you. And that's where I think like that's what to me being undeterred is about. It's not just hey, these are the hard things that happened in my life and just complaining about it or talking about it the rest of your life, or just consuming information and being like man, this is great information. It's like we have to also go do something in this life, whether you like them or not. Let's imagine like Mark Zuckerberg gives you like a VR headset. He's like, hey, this is a new technology we're working on. You can like basically, I'm not even going to explain it to you. You can just experience it. So I'm going to give it to you and I'm going to come back and get it. I don't know when I'm a super busy guy. I don't know when I'm going to come back and get it, but just experience it. You would probably want to do as much inside of there, given the time that you have. That way, when he comes back and he's like, hey, how did you like it? You're like, yo, this is super dope. Look, I did this, this, and this. These are all the features that I did, blah, 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 blah. But what a lot of people do is he comes back and he's like, yo, how did you like it? Oh, man, I didn't really want to break it. So, I was playing safe with it. I didn't really mess around with this feature, that feature, because I didn't want to mess this up. So I didn't really do anything, but it looks really cool. Like I'm glad that I was able to see it. And you'd just be like, that, like, bro, why didn't you use it? That doesn't make sense. Like, that's why I gave it to you. And I think that's how God is going to be for a lot of people. It's like you only get one life. Like when you die, you're not gonna be thankful for that. Like, what did you do with that? Like, there's only one opportunity, and there's no like playing it safe. It's not like you're gonna avoid dying. Like you're gonna die at the end. So it's like you have one life, one shot. What are you gonna do with that time while you're here? Or you're just gonna get to, if there's a God and you die, it's just like, man, I'm so glad that I was able to, like, I just played it safe and I just paid bills and that's it. I don't think that's why we're here. I think that's a part of life. But to make that your sole purpose of like, I just want to pay bills and make sure that I'm like, I have stability, and you don't actually go out and help people or impact the world or impact the people around you or do the most you can do with the talents you've been given. I don't think that's what we're supposed to do. So to kind of answer your question again, that to me is like what keeps me motivated, is like, man, I want to be like he did, that as much as he could with the talent and the time that he was given, to where it's like I die and God's like, yo, you went crazy down there. Like, that's what I'm talking about. That's how it's supposed to be done. That's a great example.
You're dropping a lot of knowledge that hopefully will help people and, they'll take action. But it's like you said, a lot of folks just listen and don't move. You said two things, and I'm going to use this to segue into the relationship. I had never thought about it in life because I always say this: when you're married, you can either be right or you can be in love, but you can't have both.
Yeah.
And you said that in life, you can be right or you can be happy. So it can apply that. So segueing into the relationship, tell me, somebody like you, and almost always, as soon as you make the decision to do you, help others, whether it's great, people call it, whether it's raising your vibe, attracting better people, you probably attracted, a lot of ladies in your life. How did you choose your wife? How did you make the decision that, yes, this is the one that I want to spend the rest of my life with? And how did you guys meet? And how did you make that decision?
Yeah. So I am in Indiana, I don't remember the year, 2013. I never really, I always get that mixed up. It was either 2013 or 2014. So I started this clothing line, the one I told you about, like the first one. And I never went to like internships or trying to get a job while I was in college, because I was like, I never want to do that. I'm just going to be like this famous rapper or entrepreneur or whatever. I thought it was going to be a lot easier than what it actually is. So when I graduated, I was like, dang, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I ended up moving in with my friend that lived in, I think it's called Columbus, Indiana. I can't remember if that's the name of the city, but I think so. It's like a very small city. I ended up getting a job at the UPS store there. So I'm making like $8 an hour, like surrounded by people that have worked there their whole life. They're like 40, 50 years old. And everyone would always be like, even the people that came into the store, they're like, bro, why are you working here? Like, this is not a place for you. Like, I can tell just talking to you, like, this is not a place you should be working. So I wanted to move to LA because I was like, man, if I'm in LA, I could have this clothing line, I could do music. Like, I think things would pop off. And so one day my uncle, I can't remember if he called me or texted me, but he was like, hey, instead of going to LA, which is probably going to be really expensive, what if you came to Orlando to live where you already have family? So you could just like see how you like it. So he's like, I'm going to visit my daughter. I bought a one-way ticket. If you want to move to Orlando, just pick me up and then drive me back. And then you can move and you can see what it's like. But I'm coming in like a couple of days. So I'm like, I gotta figure out like what I'm like, if I'm gonna do this. Fortunately, when I told everybody at work, they're like, "Yo, you have to do this," and I'm very, very thankful for that, because I think there's a lot of people that could have been jealous. You know what I mean? And try to hold you back, but they're like, "Bro, you're not meant to like. If you go down this path, you could potentially be like us, and that's not what you're made for, bro. Like you're not supposed to do that. And like even the guy that owned the shop was like, yo, I'll give you a recommendation, like whatever I got to do, like just get out of here, like for real, like don't stay here. So I was like, man, that's awesome. So when I moved to Orlando, I was supposed to get a job at, and it's crazy like how all this works out, like saying it, but I got a recommendation to work at the UPS store in Orlando, Florida. Talked to the owner, everything was good. He's like, I'm going on vacation. You need to talk to the manager. Talk to the manager like a couple of days later, and we're going through like all the paperwork and stuff. And he's like, I'm not gonna hire you at what the owner said because that's not fair. Like you're getting paid more than what I got paid when I started, and I'm not gonna let someone come in here that gets paid more than what I started at. So I was like, man, I don't want to do this. This that kind of pissed me off. So, but my family was like, you should just take it until you get another job. So I said, all right. I don't remember what day that was. Let's say it was like a Thursday or Friday or something. Someone was like, hey, I heard you're looking for a job. I think I could get you on at valet at Disney. And I was like, but I don't know how to drive like a stick shift. And I could fine, like just go see what they say. I went, I did like a test and like an interview, and then they like hired me on the spot. They're like, you can start like next week. So I called the UPS store. I was like, bro, I'm not coming in on Monday. Like, I was supposed to start like in a couple of days. Like, I'm not doing that. I don't like the way you treated me. I'm not coming in. So I go to Disney that next week. And then like my wife now is who like was the first person I met there. It was like my manager there. So like she walked me to get like my costume and like get everything ready, like do all my paperwork. And then like we didn't really talk or anything like that for like a while. And then we just started talking. I think it was on like Instagram and like social media. And then I remember one day, I think I asked her like to like hang out or something. She's like, "Oh, I have to like take care of the kids at church or something like that." Forget exactly what it was. So I was like, "Yo." When I went to Indiana University, it was like huge party school. So I would still go to church like here and there, but most of the chicks that I knew was like they're just trying to party. Like they like hung over on Sunday. They ain't going to church, you know. So when I was like, yo, not only is she already going, but she's serving, that's crazy. So we started like, talking more, and I was like, man, I really like her personality. But things weren't, I think I'll be honest, like for me, it's like I was still at that point. This is 2014, 2015. So like let's say 10 years ago, right? So I'm like 23 at the time, 24. um, I'm like, man, I want to like a baddie though. Like she has to be like super sexy. That's like the only thing like really that's like on my mind, you know? And like both of us, it's like we're not really at that. We weren't really at that point. It's like we look good, but I think for me it was like that like heavily focused on that, which I think a lot of us guys we can't be. So I was like, man, I like that, but I'm not sure. Like, there's always like other females I see that I know wouldn't be like a good partner for me, but it's like you see them on Instagram or whatever. So I remember we were at church once, and she was sitting next to me, and I was like, yo, God, if this is the person you want me to marry, like have her like rub my hand or something like that. And I'm not talking like 5 minutes later, 10 minutes later, like I remember like seconds, like she just started like rubbing my hand. I was like, yo, that's crazy. So I was like, all right, is this the person you want me to marry? Like have her rub my, like, I think I said like thumb or something.
The second test, yeah.
And then she started like rubbing like all my fingers like this, and like rub that finger. So at this point, it's still like unbelievable that this is like happening. So I was like, all right, I think I hear you, God, but if this is for real who you want me to marry, like have her rub my hand like hard. And then because like she's really little, so like she's just like doing it softly. And then she started. I'm not talking to her like as this is going on, and she just started rubbing my hand like not like aggressively, but like a little bit, harder. I was like, yo, that. So the pastor, he was doing a message about there's like he used like a prop, and the prop that he was using was a ladder. So I said, all right, God, if this is who you want me to marry, like have him fall off the ladder, and I'll know for sure. And then as I thought that, I was like, nah, that's crazy. Like he doesn't need to get hurt in order for me to know, because like you already showed me like 3 or 4 times. As I'm thinking that, he's on the ladder as I'm thinking this, and I was like, I said in my head, I was like, yo, if he falls, I will know for sure. He and then I was like, no, that I don't like want him to get hurt. Like, all right, I'll just take it. So he's at like the top of the ladder. It was like a big, pretty big ladder too. He comes down and he was like, all right, the reason of me getting the ladder today is so I can show you guys where you fall. And that's like his words. He was like, I wanted to show you, like, sometimes you can only see certain things in life if you're high up. And he's like, depending on where you're at is going to be where you fall. And he's like, so where do you, so I was like, bro, that's crazy. Cause that's like the same thing. So that was like 4 or 5 times, like back to back to back. So I remember talking to my friend about this and I was like, bro, whenever I'm like reading the Bible and God is showing somebody a sign like 1 or 2 times and they don't do it, like bad things happen. So I don't fully understand, but I feel like I feel like within time, it'll start to make sense. And I just have to trust that God knows what he's doing. So I think that was 2017. So 2018, we go on the cruise, and then I thinking about Paris. So I'm like, all right, I already know God already gave me that sign. So I can't if I already know, like let's just do it. There's no need to keep waiting. Like God already told me. So like, what am I waiting for? I can't let the reason I'm not being obedient to what God's telling me to do be because I don't have money to have a huge wedding or to buy a big ring. Like he didn't tell me to wait for that. So I knew based on I think there was something else too, but I forget exactly what it was. But that was like when I had like 4 or 5 things back to back that was like super random like that. I was like, all right, I just have to trust that eventually over time, like stuff will make sense.
That's that's quite the story, man. And the fact that I've never heard this, but it's funny the fact that you kept asking for answers, and he's just like, this isn't enough. I'll give you another one. This is enough. I'll give you another one until you finally said, okay, okay, 4 times. Like, thanks. So since then, so you guys have been together for. Did you guys stay together throughout those 10 years? That now,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so how has it been navigating a relationship as an entrepreneur? Because as an entrepreneur, we're on 24/7, and a lot of people don't understand that. A lot of people see us and think that we're crazy, or there needs to be work-life balance. They don't really understand like something that I heard that I really like for entrepreneurs is work-life integration. It's a part of your life. How do you navigate that for you personally in your relationship? What does that look like?
Yeah, it's funny. Me and my wife are always like, our joke is like, I don't know if we have a good relationship because we really love each other, if we're just like, there's because we're lazy. Because like, over that 10 years, like, there's probably been like, you can count on like one hand the amount of times that we've actually like argued. Like that's not just like a disagreement, but like a serious, I guess like you want to say a fight, but like a more of like an intense argument. Like, other than that, it's like super chill. And I think the reason why that is like people don't want to know, they don't want to accept that that's the reason. How do I word it? So we met at Disney, right? We're doing ballet. That's what she already had a kid. She was gonna marry this dude. She wasn't with him. So she has a kid. She's like 20 something. She doesn't have, so like you're young, you already have a kid and you don't have a good job. And everyone else in your family isn't like really killing it. So it's like this is kind of the life that I accept. Maybe I'm never gonna find like her thought at that time is like, I'm not really gonna maybe find a good partner, not gonna ever make much money. Like I'm just gonna do what everyone else does, and this is just life for me. And we meet, and I was like, I'm not staying here for very long. I remember telling her, I'm not gonna be here doing ballet forever. And like, and if we're together, like we're gonna do more stuff. So to see, you know, me, like I ended up quitting that. Like I got promoted like in that job like quick, and then I ended up quitting, and then I ended up doing something else, and then I started like my own business. I started making money. Then we went to Paris. I think she started seeing that like I'm not just BSing like with my words. Like I'm not here to just like be passive, and like I'm really going to be a leader. So it's like if we're going to be together, like you can trust me in that role. I'm not like we're not just like sitting around and doing nothing together. And so I think a lot of my male friends that I have, I'm like, bro, there's a lot of talk of like, man, we want a woman that's submissive and that trusts you, but it's like you have to give her a reason to trust you, bro. If every time you're saying you're gonna do something, you don't do it, or you're acting like an idiot, she's not gonna want to follow what you're saying. So it's like after years, so it's like 10 years of her seeing me, continuously move up, and hey, this is a super crazy idea, but I think we could do it, and stuff starts working. At this point, she kind of knows like, okay, life is going to be super wild, but like I pretty much trust you. I think what I had to learn as an entrepreneur is grinding is important, but I think sometimes we think grinding from 7 to 10 p.m. is like going to be the thing that makes us a millionaire in that day. Like, I have to do this in this 3 hours. And it's like, it's not that grinding isn't important, but it's like that 3 hours with your family is important too. Like, bro, get done what you got to get done from, 10 to 6 or whatever. You're done after that. It's not an all day thing. And the people that I see doing that, do they have successful businesses? Yeah, but when I talk to them in person, like their marriage ain't that good. Like they like that's all they think about is business. And it's like, bro, that's not really like the life I'm trying to live. And so I think I had to realize like we're having a movie night, we're having a date night. Like if you need me for something outside of that, then that's what we're doing. But at the same time, we got to have a vision of the life that we want to live, and some of that or a lot of that is going to take money. It's going to take grind and hustle. So it's like there's going to be times where I'm gonna be locked in, but I also have to be like, it can't just only be all about that, because then you get there and you have like nothing left, you know?
Yeah, I think you're ahead of the game too, because like you said, I've got actually a lot of successful friends that I actually help them with their relationships through their businesses, because oftentimes we forget about life. Like I shared with you that I lost everything through my heartbreak. It wasn't the heartbreak accelerated everything, but that's what happens to us. I feel like we just go all in on one vertical in our life. Like it could be your clothing company. For me, it could be the online coaching business. But then we forget about life. We forget about our partner, and we don't realize that our partners are actually the ones that motivate us, inspire us, and are there with us the entire time. Right? And we're sharing that with them. And sometimes we forget that. Sometimes I think you're from the US, so you'll understand this. But me now living in Mexico, maybe you experience this also. We as Americans, prior to me living here, we idolize independence and just we could do everything on our own. Like we embrace that, that independence, but to an extreme, which is bad, right? In my opinion, all extremes are bad. And that extreme is bad. When I moved here, I realized like how much community there is and how much people are helping each other out. And we forget about that, right? We forget about how important like these other like our relationships are that actually propel us to move forward. There's a saying that I like that says the difference between money and people is that people take you places where money can't.
Yeah.
And we get lost in that sometimes. So so that's really cool. So something unique that you shared is that you can count just on five fingers or one hand, the amount of times we've had, serious arguments. It's natural, it's a normal relationship. That's how we grow. What do you think you attribute to that?
I think people are just too sensitive, man, honestly. Like, and that's something we both had to work on where like for me, I can talk to you differently as a guy than I can about my wife because they get in their feelings, right? So it's like for us, you're like, bro, wake up early in the morning. You said you were gonna get up. Let's go. Like, quit, do what you said you're gonna do. And I think with women, it's more like we have to be conscious of like the way that they feel. But as for women, it's like we're not mind readers, so it's like you also have to be able to express yourself and express yourself clearly. And so I think for both of us, what we've tried to work on is like it's not always about how you say stuff. I really hate that. It's like, oh, I don't like the way you said it. Who cares, bro? Get over it. It's more about like what was said. So sometimes my wife is not gonna be like she has stress already, and if she's like, "You just never take me on dates. You never care about like our late blah blah," right? It's not about the fact that she yelled. It's not about the fact that maybe she said it at the wrong time. It's like I need to take a break and be like, "Yo, what is she trying to communicate to me? What is she saying? Is she right? The fact that I haven't been taking her on a date, okay, she's right. So it don't matter how she said it. That's like a totally separate issue. And people just throw out what was said because like I don't like the way you said it. And so it's like if you're with this person, you know that they love you. So they're probably not trying to hurt you. And if so, why are you with that person? So you know that what they're trying to say is with love. You just have to take a minute to not get so freaking sensitive and emotional. Like take a second to listen to what they're saying. So it's like, okay, she is like, you're not being present. So for me, it's like, can I take ownership over that? Am I not being present? Okay, I'm not. Okay, so it doesn't matter like how she said it. I can address that later. But now I'm trying to make her issue. Like I'm trying to like come back with my own. Like, yeah, well, okay, well, maybe I didn't take you out, but I don't like the way you yelled at me. And like people just keep going back and forth. It's like nothing's getting done. Like you don't need to reply with the issue of your own. Is and people don't want to have accountability. So it's like you just take a second, think about what they're saying. Okay, maybe I do need to take her on more dates. Like, is that true? If it's true, then do it. If it's not true, then don't get emotional about it. Then you can just now you can have a conversation. And that's not always easy, but I think that's something that we've tried to do where it's like it's not worth getting into like the world's biggest argument over a lot of stuff. It's like, let the person that has the issue have the issue. You don't have to have an issue as well. So you can just listen to what they're saying, and then how can we fix that? You know what I mean? And I think people get into these like, for example, let's say if I like came on this episode late, and you're like, bro, like I don't like the way you showed up late. Like a lot of people can't just take that and be like, yo, hey, yeah, you're right, man. I did show up like 10 minutes late. Like they want to come at you now with something in exchange. Like, well, I don't like the way that you had this on Zoom. If you would have had it on Riverside, blah, blah. It's like, I didn't see the link that you sent me. And it's like, I think we would just like, it does take a lot of like ownership, I think, in the relationship. I think that's one thing I will give my wife a lot of credit for that she has done. I think if more people do that, relationships would be better. For example, and this is like an extreme example, but we have like a mutual friend that was saying like, man, her spouse wasn't wanting to spend time with her, like watching movies and stuff. She was getting upset with him. If I'm talking to him, it's like, bro, you need to have ownership over that. Like, why are you not spending time with your spouse? But here's what people don't want to do. Why doesn't he want to spend more time with you? And what could you do to make him spend more time with you? What do guys want? Guys, women know that we want someone that looks good. Bro, if you're never going to the gym, but you're like, you want him to spend every second with you, do you think that going to the gym would make him more attracted to want to do these things? People don't want to, they don't want to accept that. Oh, you should just love me for who I am. Yeah, if we lived in a perfect world, that's how it'd be. But like, that's not how it goes. So if you could, instead of trying to spend all your time complaining and arguing about what he's doing, yeah, he should change some of this, but what could you do? And then when you're doing as much as you can do and it's still not changing, then you can do all that stuff. And I think people just, they don't want to do that. So I think that's something that we've tried to do and that we both had to work on, where it's like, okay, she's telling me this is certain things I need to work on. I'm telling her these are things that we need to work on. And just taking a minute to, I think, just not blow up like when someone tells you something, you know? And I think that's what's avoided like a lot of arguments. Like it's like saying something and knowing like, okay, I don't have to yell at this person. Cause like this is your partner. You know what I mean? Like just chill for a second.
Wow, I understand it. I'm trying to think about some of the viewers that might see this is what you got into to remove yourself emotionally, accept, you basically have accepted, this is the way I interpreted everything you said. You accepted the fact that women are emotional beings. So when they're overly expressive, it's because that's in their nature and it's not a personal attack to us, right? And you decided to take ownership. If what she's saying is true, I haven't taken her out on dates, I'm going to own it. I'm going to take her out more dates. If what she's saying is not true, and I have been taking her on dates since they're emotional beings, there's something behind that. Let me see where that's coming from.
Yeah.
Let me see. So you've been undeterred on their reactions. How do you think you got to that point? You think it's something that
I
you're
think like one day I had like a really, I don't know if I would say brilliant, but I think I had like a really good realization because when there's a day, I don't remember when it was, but I was very frustrated with like my wife because I was like, yo, she gets like so emotional, like so like quickly, right? It's like things are good and then some like in my mind something small happens and she's like upset or like stressed out or freaked out. And I was like, man, she just changes her mood like so quickly, you know, like they get emotional, like it's in their nature. And then I was like, wait, if she can go from happy to changing her mood to sad or angry, like at the moment, because she changes emotional status quickly, that means that she can go from sad and angry and emotional to happy quickly. Like it's the same, it's the same. So I was like, I can just use that to my benefit. So instead of being so worried whenever she gets in these negative states, I just think of like the same way that it went to from good to bad quickly, it can go from bad to good. So she's always like, when I'm upset, like you just like don't let it bother you. You're just like, hey, do you want some chocolate? Do you want to watch a movie or whatever? And she's like, that just changes my mood quickly. Rather than she's like, rather than you letting it affect you, you know what I mean? Where it's like, if she's angry, I'm like, this is just it's not a being. It's just like a moment. There's this book I read that actually helped with that called The Way of the Superior Man. But I
what's the
realized I'm
way
like,
to prepare men.
yeah, The Way of the Superior Man. And I just realized like it's just like a moment in time. It's not a permanent state of being. It's just like in this moment right now she's upset, but if I put on a movie that she really loves, or like I give her a hug or get her chocolate, or the next day we go on a date, like that the emotional state of being is going to change. So I don't have to let it affect me so much that I feel like it's permanent. I feel like it's the same like in life. It's like good things are happening and then something bad happens, or people are like, man, everything just fell apart so quickly. I'm like, the way that it fell apart is the same way that it can everything. You also hear stories of like, yo, everything just happened really good. It could just be one thing. So I think for me that helped where I'm like, yeah, she might be angry right now. If I did something that it's my fault, then change it. Again, back to the ownership. Like, what could I do? If I couldn't do anything, then it's like there's nothing I could have done anyways. So I just have to accept the fact that it's like she's upset in this very moment. But is there anything that I could do to possibly change that? And a lot of times it's just like I think for women it's just like being there for them and letting them. It's like this is like a weird comparison, but I saw this I can't remember if it was a YouTube video or an Instagram video or whatever, but it's this guy that like trains dogs. And there's this dog that was going crazy. It was just like barking at like everyone. They do like these live like examples or whatever. The lady had like no control over her dog, and she's just like pulling on the leash and saying like stop, 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 like calm down, calm down, calm down. And then the guy just like picked up the dog and it just like wasn't barking like at all. And he was like, the thing you have to understand is like they feed off your energy. He was like, when it's like stressed and you're stressed, it makes it more stressed. But when it's super freaked out and it realizes you're calm, it gives it like a safe place. And I feel like people are kind of the same way. It's like if you're at like McDonald's and somebody comes in there and they're upset because they didn't get whatever on their hamburger, and then the worker starts stressing out about that, like it becomes a conflict. But if you just take that and you realize like this person is just like right now they're stressed, it's not permanent. Hey man, I'm sorry that you got that. What can I do to fix this? And you have a smile on your face and you're calm. Like most people calm down. So I think it's like the same thing in relationship. Like there's no like you really don't have to let that person's emotional state put you in the same state. I think sometimes we feel like as a partner, like we have to like, oh, they're upset, so I have to be upset. They're angry, I have to be angry. So you want to be happy, you can be happy. It doesn't matter how angry or upset they are. Like that doesn't mean that you don't love them just because they're angry and you're not angry. And they might be uncomfortable with that because they like most people, like what do they say, like misery wants company. But it's like I'm just not going to be angry with you right now because I don't want to be, so it's like I'm just going to love on you in this moment. And I think that has helped like a lot because they realize, I think your partner starts to realize like you do have their back, you do support them, and like you're not there to just have like an argument every time. Like it's like people, it's like just don't have an argument. Just don't do it.
It's like this the old saying, everything we seek is inside us.
Yeah.
Doesn't come from external. I think you just dropped some words of wisdom to whoever does listen through this, that can change their life, understanding that it's just a moment and that I hadn't thought about that. I mean, I have, but not in that practical sense of like, if they just went from happy to sad, they can go from sad to happy too. So why
Yeah,
should I?
but your wife is from Mexico, right? Mine is Puerto Rican, bro. So like these Latinas, man, like it's like you just
We're
have to
different levels.
yeah, you just got to understand that like the mood changes are there, but it's not a permanent thing. It's like, oh, you just got so angry. It's like, bro, they're gonna be angry for like 5 seconds. Just have a smile on your face, love them, maybe give them some space or whatever you have to do. Get some chips and salsa out, bro. And in 2 minutes, they happy again. You know what I mean? Like put some music on. And so it's like I think when we have that calm energy about us, like it lets other people, our spouses or just other people, like be calm. Like you don't have. It's like I know we're talking about spouses, but it's like specifically this drives me crazy with black people. If we're gonna say black people in the U.S., it's like, man, I hate how there's like so much police brutality. Hasn't it? And then you have an encounter with a cop. And you're like, why the f you want to see my license? It's like, bro, like you think that energy is gonna help you? Smile, be calm, give them your ID. It goes back to us saying, like, do you want to be in this case? Do you want to be right or do you want to be alive? Like, I just want to go back home to my family. So, bro, you want to see my ID? Cool. Here, see. I don't care if you're racist or whatever you got going on. Like, that's not that mood ain't gonna affect me. And because of that, like, I never have bad experiences. But I think everyone wants to put the blame on that person. And it's like if you're waiting for the police in America to change for you to have a good day, you're probably never gonna have a good day. So you and instead make them have a good experience. So I think it's the same with like with spouses. Like they're going to be emotional. These things are going to happen, but if you make the decision that you're not gonna let that frustrate you, and like you said, everything you have is within you, then every day just becomes like, how can I become better? Not how can I make everyone else change, which is like such a harder thing to do.
It's a hard thing to do. It's like simple to say, but it's hard to actually apply and put in the practice. The one thing that's helped me the most is for those hard moments, but I'm going to use this too because I like to use different tools. Is that even when, because Latinas, it's in their blood to have drama and blow up. And in my head, initially, because being from the US, we take, sometimes they'll say words that might seem like insults, but they're not. My wife helped me explain that when she gets expressive. I'm like, even when she says this, I know she loves me. Like I truly know and accept that she loves me. So I don't let this bother me. That's what's helped me. In those heated moments, in my head, I'm like, this woman loves me, and I'm like calm, and it's helped like de-escalate the situations. And the other thing that helped was a post I saw once. A guy said that Latinas girls already have a mind that they can't control, but Latinas have a mind of their mind, so it's double.
Oh wow.
It's that much harder for them to control. I was like, they can't even control their mind because their mind has a mind of its own. And when I understood that, I'm like, they're so right. Because there's sometimes you just get
Yeah.
these
I think
peaks and
the thing I think about is like I think you have three levels. First level is like this person is saying something and it could seem like they're trying to offend you, but they're not. The second level is this person said something and they are trying to offend you. And so now you're pissed off about it. And then I think the best level is like this person did something wrong to you. It is wrong, but you are choosing how you feel about it emotionally. So if your wife or anybody says you're an idiot or or cusses at you or does whatever, I think people think that being like someone doing you wrong and then you being upset about it is the same thing. So you'll say like, "Why are you so mad?" Well, because they no. That's why it's wrong. But why now are you so mad about it? And that takes again like self reflection. So if my wife says like, "Man, your business is stupid. This is a dumb thing to do." That is not the right thing to do. But like my reaction to that is like I like if I punch something or if I do something, that's on me. It's like why did I do that? I think a lot of people don't take the time to think about that. It's like if somebody says your podcast sucks and you're frustrated, you can't just say, "Well, it's because they said this." It's like, "But why did that make you so mad?" Like dig deeper because that knowing that is going to be the key to helping you be happier because then people start realizing, well, I feel like if people don't value my podcast, then it means it's not working. It's like, okay, so it's not about the comment, it's that you feel like your self-worth is based upon how other people feel about it versus the amount of work that you're putting in. Oh, I feel like my spouse has to see my vision in order for my vision to be valid. That's not true. Maybe they just don't see it right now. So they could think it's dumb. And then now you just have the discussion of like, hey, I wish you would support me, but that doesn't mean you have to be frustrated and yelling and now have this big argument because it's just like you don't need to do that. But I think a lot of that, like to have that successful relationship is like being able to take ownership in that and thinking like why are certain things making me feel a certain way? And just knowing how you personally want to react and be like, how can I do that? And I think talking together, but then also like what was I gonna say? Like knowing that it's not gonna be perfect, but it's like you're working on yourself. Like how can I do these things? And I think as you're the leader in that, like they start to see that it's like natural. Like you're around each other so much that it's like you it starts rubbing off on each other. But I think you just gotta control your own emotions. I think that we're in a society where like people don't want to do that. It's like if someone they flip me off, so that's why I punch all these people. That's why I shot these people. That's why I did this. And it's like you can't like if you just are if you're if the way that you act is based upon how everyone treats you, then you're just like a victim throughout your day to everybody else. And I'm like, I don't want to live like that. You know, it's like I want to be as happy as possible. So it's like, how can I do that?
you shared a lot of words of wisdom, and I really appreciate you coming on. I just wanted to wrap up with a couple things. One, what's next for Dee, and how do people find you? And then I'll ask you a question at the end, which will be, what are your three favorite things to do with your spouse? Can be anything, but yeah. So what's next for you, and how do people find you?
Man, what's next for me, bro? Like honestly, and I always try to be vulnerable. Like anytime I'm talking to people, because I always know that there's people that are. I don't know. I just feel like I got sick of like I don't know if I'll say I got sick, but it wasn't helpful. Like when you listen to podcasts and it just seems like everyone's killing it, but then when you meet people in public and they're not necessarily not that they are not doing well, but like they have all these other things that you don't ever see, and it's like, man, if you would have shared that, that would have helped me so much because it felt like I was the only one going through that. So like for me right now, it's like when I realized I want to help people in all these different countries, and I've lived in Hungary, Colombia, Mexico. It's like if I have like a 7K coaching program like I did before, I'm gonna miss out on a lot of people. So right now I changed like the entry level for people to get into our membership to $27 a month. So I'm like, even if I get 100 people right now, like from this podcast to sign up, that doesn't cover like all of my bills. You know what I mean? Like I still have to pay for the membership. I got to pay for flights to go to places. I got to pay for rent. So the biggest thing for me right now has been like, yo, how do I fund this as I'm building this while being on the ground helping people, knowing that I can't just get a job in the countries that I'm at because I don't have that type of like I'm not a citizen there. Sometimes you have to your visa is only for 90 days, so then you got to pack up and go to another place. So for me right now, it's like full transparency. After I get off here, I gotta like have a conversation with the dude I'm renting from. Be like, bro, I gotta figure out like how I'm gonna get get all this stuff to you, how I'm gonna get more members in. I said I can't remember if I mentioned this before, but I had a couple of people that were like, yo, you should have like a way that people can support like your vision. Like they're like, I love what you're doing, and it's not like the membership isn't for me because I'm already like achieving these things, but I would definitely financially support what you're doing. And then answering your question when we first got on, like how's everything going? Like, bro, then Bluehost like canceled my hosting. And then when I reached out to them, they're like, oh, you need to renew your domain. So I renewed my domain and they're like, your website will be up in like 30 minutes because you renewed it. Then I asked them and said, bro, it's been like 2 hours. They're like, oh, it's because you need hosting, which you canceled. I'm like, why did you cancel it then if that's what I need? Like, okay, well, if you renew it, then your website will be back up. But then it's like the money that you're refunding me isn't going to be back in the account until like 5 business days. And so now it's like all the people that I'm sending links to can't get to the links because of the Bluehost. But then like the money that they took is not in my account. And then the rest of the money I need, you know what I mean? It's like so
Yeah,
much going on. So for me, I think it's like I just got to do more of like what we're doing now, which is like just putting myself out there, still helping people, keeping a good mindset. And I think eventually it will catch up. But sometimes it just feels like it's like, bro, it's enough. It's a lot. You know what I mean? It's like, bro, I'm trying to do all this stuff and I gotta pay
it's
all these.
it's sometimes saying like, universe, I thought I already learned everything. Why are you giving me more shit right now? Have you heard of school?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I know school's pretty easy to set up communities and like run courses and things like that. And you can charge. I have a school community. It's a free one, so you can have a free one. You get paid after this or whatever. Like if you want, one of the things I do, like the client that I just signed, is help them run their business. So I'm saying this for free. Like we can hop on another call that maybe I can just give you my opinion on how to do what you want to do, which I think I can help with. If you want ideas, right, on
So
how
like
to.
right now I have everything in circle. So I have members, I have people that are paying. I tried school before, I didn't really like it. And even if I did that, I would have to convert everyone from what I have now to over there. I'd have to redo all like it would be a lot of work. So like the infrastructure and everything is there. And like there's people that are paying, there's people that are engaging. It's just like one now with the URL being down, like it's just like everything else. So like I guess like for me, it's like figuring out the next step is like figuring out the finances. It's like if you're like, all right, I went to this country, they need clean water and like electricity, and I want to bring this to them. But it's like you got to be there to do it. But now you need money to get like the clean water, to get the electricity. Like, so it's like you got to like find a way to do this financially. So,
Yeah.
like what this reminded, doing this with you reminded me of is like, I need to probably like focus heavily on like getting more people onto my YouTube channel to share their story, but also getting on more podcasts and just talking about this vision because I think there's a lot of people out there like that I know in the US that make, 6 figures plus a year that would be like, bro, like I love what you're doing. I'm not gonna go to Morocco and help these people, but I'll give you $50 a month or $100 a month to go do it.
Yeah.
You get a decent amount of those people, and let's say just on the supporter side, if I could get that to 2 to 3K, it's like, all right, guys, I can live in these countries, I can pay for all the membership and everything that we have to do, until the business gets to that point. And then if you want to continue supporting when it gets at that point, great, that'd be appreciated. But if not, like I'm not just like a missionary where it's like I'm only relying on your money. It's like I have the business, but it's just going to take time for it to get to that point. So I think for me, that's the point, the place where I'm trying to get in. The thing that is like frustrating is like you have a situation where you're like, yo, how the hell is all this stuff going to work out? You're stressed, and then it works out, and it's like a month later, you're like, okay, I made progress. It feels like everything's going good, but dang, today I got to like make this rent. It's like you're stressing about something that hasn't happened. So it's like in my mind, you're like, oh, this dude's gonna be upset if I can't pay him today or if I can't do this. But maybe I talk to him, he's like, oh, bro, like don't worry about it. So then it's like you just stress for like a whole week for like no reason, or like so it's like just I think also having faith that it's like I'm on the right path and like all this stuff is eventually going to work out if I just keep pushing.
Have you thought about having different programs? Because, for example, I get that you want to make it accessible to help anyone, right? That's why you have a certain price. But why not? Because I think you mentioned briefly you had a 7K coaching program. Why not get one of those clients right now? They're going to fund that, and then that cash you're going to be able to reinvest for these other people that you can help
Yeah.
out.
So I don't have those old I don't have those old businesses anymore. Like because it's a different it's a totally different thing. So I'd be marketing totally different messages, but I have different tiers. So I have one that's 27, one that's 97 a month. These are like
Oh,
monthly, and one that's like 1,500. So like I had some people that were in the higher price one, so that was helping. But then like holidays happen, and people are like, "Yo, like things are happening in my life too." And so it's like even the people that were funding that, it's like they ended up going through some rough times. People got in like car accidents and these different things. So it's like it's just like a lot. You know, it's like trying to figure all that out. So that's why I'm like, everything is there. Like every time I talk to someone, they're like, have you ever thought about this? And they have really good ideas, like what you just said. And I'm like, yo, bro, these are in place. It's just like all the stuff is the school is there, the community is there, the tiers are there. It's just like it getting to the catching up with like every like people are getting in there and knowing about it and people are in there, if that makes sense.
yeah, that makes sense. You're just having some blockers right now, and
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So
yeah.
yeah, next, I think for most people, the place that I'm most active, like if people want to talk to me, is Instagram. So that's just at my name. So at Dee Greene, Dee, and then green like the color with the E at the end. So Greene. Every day, Monday through Friday, I'm doing a vlog on YouTube. And so what I wanted to do is have like the Undeterred blog, which shows me chasing one of my dreams and what it takes to be undeterred. So you can actually see like what I'm doing, which is cool for people that have their own dream because they can apply that to their own dream, or people that just want to. Let's say if somebody's like, "Man, I really want to support what you're doing in Morocco," you can actually see what I'm doing in these different countries, the people I'm talking to, the businesses we're helping, and I wanted to just use that as like a one. Obviously, it's like a good lead magnet or a client acquisition, but I think it's great. It's a great tool for free that people can tap into. Going back to what we were talking about before, I was like, man, I want something that, like, when I die, like, if I can't run my programs or the stuff people are paying for, that stuff might go away. But if I could have something like how other people wrote a book, or they have something that is there afterwards, like I have to have something like that. Because I think sometimes we focus so much on building our business, but it's like, what if that's the only thing you ever focus on and you die tomorrow? Like all that stuff is gone. You know what I mean? But it's like if you're also focusing on like a YouTube channel, it's like you can help. I think a lot of us are like, I just want to help people. And I'm like, what most people are saying if they finish it is, I just want to help people that pay me. And so I was like, it can't just be the people that only pay. Like it has to be stuff out there that's going to help other people. And I think, I don't know, I think God works in mysterious ways. I think maybe it's like if I'm going to be running a business called Undeterred, it's like it can't just be an easy path, because then for the people that are like, oh, but you don't understand my situation. Now I'll be like, bro, we're at like go back and watch like 100 of these episodes. Like I don't want to hear that. Like there's so many things I had to do to get to this point that you can see all of those. And maybe that's, you know, the situation people need to see versus like, yeah, well, it was easy for you. You just spent like 1 month and you're at 10K per month and now you can just do whatever you want. It's like that's not the case, you know? So it's like to be able now to help these people and to like I think for people to see over time, like, man, I remember watching him go up through this and that and all these different types of setbacks, and he didn't stop and he finally made it. Like I remember, like you can actually see that. So I think we don't have that with like Jeff Bezos or Mark Zuckerberg. It's like after, or Alex Ramosi even. It's like after the fact. But to be able to see what someone's going through when it's like feels like nothing is working, that's what I want to show. And that's kind of like I think it's like be careful what you ask for. Because I was like, man, God, it'd be cool to show people this. And now it feels like, all right, well, I'm just gonna like everything's gonna be burning around you. That way you can show people what it means like to be undeterred. So that's kind of like the situation right now.
So you're living what you wanted to do, and oftentimes, like myself, I do it too. When I was going through hard times, like with my fiance, now we're married, but I would look back and say, holy shit, this is actually exactly what I asked for. I asked to become better. I asked to become more vocal. I asked to get out of the comfort zone, and that's what's happening here. And as soon as I
Yeah.
decided to accept it and just embrace it, I felt like and it's a reminder because we go through this in cycles, right? It reminded me, I'm like, this is what I did when I lost everything. I just let go and started accepting the help that's showing up in my life and not doing it how I think I should. I'm doing it how God's telling me how to do it, and it's flowing better. So maybe if there's something that you're like swimming against the current, right? That you could say, you know what, I'm just gonna let go here and go for it. Usually it'll open up
Yeah,
more.
that's good. That's good advice, bro. That's actually really good advice. Yeah.
I love your content. Yeah, your message, your story, everything. That's why I wanted to put you on here. Okay, last thing though, to end it on like a on a higher note is what are like yeah, three of your favorite things that you do with your wife that you think is unique?
That I think is unique. Wow, you threw a twist in there. I had like my answers. You said that I think is unique. One thing that we love to do that I do that actually is unique. Because like one thing I was gonna say is like, man, I love obviously, maybe not obviously, but we like to go to like nice restaurants and just like enjoy each other's company. But when you said like that, I think is unique. One thing that we try to do in other countries is we do that same thing. Like, let's go to a nice restaurant. And what, bro, this was so like when we have the finances is awesome. Like, how we get on, is it called, I think it's called Open Table, like where you can just like make reservations. So we'll invite our friends that are locals to these, Hungary or Albania or Mexico, Colombia, and we'll just be like, hey, like we're gonna just come over and we're gonna go somewhere at 7:30 p.m., 8:30 p.m. And we might get a group of two or three friends and then take them to these places that they probably never would have went to because they're like it's too expensive. And then just pay for them. And like for us, like that's like one of the coolest things is like we're getting to have that date night and have that vibe, but also to like build relationships and provide other people the experiences that they might not ever have and then have the finances to pay is like something that I think is just like a cool thing to do like as a couple. That's been really cool. I guess like if we're saying that's unique, traveling the world, most people probably aren't doing that.
Yeah.
And then I would say like running a business, like she's been helping me a lot with like what we're doing. So like I could say like, man, I'm just an entrepreneur, and then she's like doing her own thing, and like how do you manage that? But a lot of that has been like she will hop in there and do the customer support if I need to, or message people back, or get on a call with someone. So yeah, I would say like I think that one is pretty unique, I would say.
It is, yeah. That's awesome. Well, I'm excited to see the continuation of your journey because I don't doubt you're gonna be in a better position, right? Just like things can turn, what you're telling me. And this is all just for confidence because sometimes that's all we need, like those reminders, when we're going through the shit.
I'm like
Oh,
right now, like I'm like it's like, yo, right now you need to boost the confidence. I'm like, yeah, if somebody could just wire me like 10K right now, that would really help with my
yeah.
confidence.
When I had my eviction notice, I go like that. It was such a weird situation, but I did everything right to keep the house, including renovating the entire house, doing another 5K deposit to start over, which was unnecessary. All this stuff was unnecessary. They still said leave 6 months later, and it's on my profile page. I'm not making this shit up. My neighbor texts me. He goes, "Look at this photo." And there was a 150-foot tree fell on top of our house and snapped the house in half.
Dang. Yeah, so you never know.
Hindsight's 2020.
Facts, bro. That's
So
facts, bro. And then in hindsight, you can be like, man, I'm so thankful that I wasn't there. And we could basically sound like what you're saying is like we can choose to be thankful now before that happens, because you could just in your mind be like, well, what if a tree was gonna fall? So I don't know. Or
the
like you
hardest,
can't pay rent, but it's like that could be the same thing. Like if you can't pay your rent somewhere, maybe that place is gonna catch on fire in a week. And if someone sends you a video, you're like, yo, I'm so glad I wasn't able to stay there.
the hardest part that I lived and I learned that at that time and I embody it now is things happen for us, not to us.
Man, that's facts. That's a good point, bro.
So, and when you're in this shit, like it happens to me to today, even when I'm just like, I'm like, okay, this is happening for me. This is happening for me. And then I get out of that and then I just take action and, move forward. So that's what I
Man,
do.
I like that, bro. I like that. That's a good like that'd be like a good T-shirt or something one day. Like life is happening for like a good reminder, like a little bracelet or something. It's like, yo, it's wear it that way. We can, it's like you look in the mirror, you have a bad day. You're like, okay,
Yeah. Yeah, man. Well, all right. Well, good luck. I think that's it. I don't know if you have any questions for me.
man. I always say the same. I think I kind of touched on this, but for like the past 10 years or however long, whenever people have me come on a podcast, I always say the same thing, which is like, if someone is listening to this right now, it means one of two things. It means either they fast forwarded through like a majority of the episode to just get to the end, which is like super weird. Why did you do that? Or two, like they listen to the whole episode. And I think like you could be in your car on a run or wherever you're listening to this, and you could be nodding your head like, oh, this was a good episode. I needed this. But like that's not going to change your life. So most people listen to podcasts, like they listen to so much stuff, and it's like then they don't act on it. Like don't just nod your head. Like don't waste like an hour and however long it's been like listening to this and then just go back to doing the same stuff because you could have done so many other things, a waste of time. So instead, it's like, what's one? I always would think like when I listen to podcasts, like what's one thing I could do? You're like, yeah, but I can't always do something. You can always do something. Whether that's if you weren't already following me and you followed me, that's one thing. If we talked about going on dates with your spouse, even if you don't have the money to go on one and you go on Google and you're like, when I have the money, I know where I'm going to go. That's something. You can always do something. So I'm like, if you every time you get new information into your mind and you actually take action on that, like your life will change. But if you all you ever do is you're just one of these people that nods their head and like, oh, I needed to hear that, and you're dropping comments on wherever this is at, like that's great. That helps us feel better, but it's not going to change your life. So I always try to say that it's like maybe if that's only for like that one person that was not going to do anything, now that does something. Like for me and you, it's not so much. I could be wrong. I'll speak for myself, but it's not so much about like the necessarily the views and the likes and the comments. It's like we want that person, or I would say I would want that person that comes up to me that's like, yo, I listened to that podcast episode and I was able to do this because of this. Like this is what changed my relationship, my life, blah, blah, blah. Not just like, hey, bro, I needed to hear that. And then you meet them a month or a year later, and then it's like in the same situation. It's like, we want to hear like, this is how it changed actually my life. So I always tell people like, if you got this far, make it worth your time because otherwise you just wasted an hour.
Take action. Yeah. And we're on the same page there. So I know you said you're speaking for you, but I'm doing this because I'm just hoping that I'm doing this for when I was in my rock bottom, that I had access to content or information because I was always an action taker. I just didn't know what to do. At the time, I was this egotistical young kid who had a business that did over $1.5 million to just losing it all and realizing like I don't know shit. Like I thought I knew everything, but I don't know. So I started consuming information that helps me. So that's why I'm doing this too. So for the business owner or somebody who wants to improve the relationship, it's like, oh, what Dee said here about making this change, I can start applying that, and that changed my life. And then
100%.
well, cool, man. Well, if you need anything, I'm not going to add this. Like, I cut out a lot of the empty spaces too, because
Oh,
people
okay.
are entertaining and they want entertainment, and that was a hard part for me to accept. But I just accept the way the world is. It's like people's attention span are short. People don't like empty spaces. So, anyways, I cut it to get more exposure out there. This last part, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, if you need anything, dude, just reach out, Instagram or whatever. Always happy to
Man,
help out.
the main things that's I'm trying to do a better job of like telling people what I need because I think we typically are afraid to do that. And I think of like when you're building like Instagram or something, and like let's say you're in Silicon Valley, like they're literally telling them, bro, I need money to pay these developers. I need money for the like I have a like when they go on Shark Tank, they're not just like, hey, if you need anything, and they're just like, yeah, okay. It's like, bro, I need money to do this. And I think like we get afraid of telling our friends and family that because like what they might think. But I think if you believe in what you're doing, like I think you at least have to ask people once. Asking them all the time or like taking advantage is another thing. But like I'm trying to do a better job of just telling people like, bro, the like right now it's like the funding. So like
You're
for
looking
me,
for investment.
yeah, it's like people that are willing to support the vision. So like if you or you know anybody that like I since the website is not working, I was like, I got to figure out something. I made like a Google Doc and then I like recorded a video and then I put different ways. So if you know anybody that would be like, bro, like that sounds like they would support what I'm doing, look, that's like the main thing. Or anybody that you know that could be like a good fit for a member. Cause like I want to it's like both of those would allow me to help people. One, either helping that person directly or being able to help other people. Like here in a minute, me and my friend Taylor are going to go to the guy Basam's and he wants to grow his business. But like one of the reasons why, like yesterday, one thing that's good is he's sold out. But the other thing that's bad is he has to turn away all these people because he sold out. The reason that he sold out is because he needs a new oven because the other one's smaller. But in order to get the oven, he needs like $2,000. But in order to make the money, he has to be able to make the food. But if you can only make so much, like it limits you. So it's like I want to be able to at some point. It's like, bro, that's 2 grand. That's not that much. It's like just to be able to be like, bro, like just pick it out and let's get it, and to be able to do that in different parts of the world. So to me, it's not just about like, hey, pay me money so I can go to these different places and show like the hotels that I'm living at and be an influencer. It's like, bro, I really want to show the people and be like, yo, this all of us around the world, even if it's only $1 that you're giving, these are the lives that we're changing. And if you have your own dream, you can join the thing and we can do it. So that's like that's the mission.
Okay, I'll share two things. One, I'm not in a position to invest. I'm not in a position to invest personally. I know you weren't asking me personally for that, but if there's a deal I did 6 months ago, I'm waiting on this big commission check. If that comes in, I'll be able to support something. So like, a couple $100 from that, but I think it's supposed to come in till mid-February to middle of March, to be honest. And then two, I know you said you've gotten a lot of ideas. I don't know if you have this one, but it's huge in China, and it's like the next wave that's coming in the US is live online selling. And what I was thinking for you is like, what about live online fundraising? Like you do a live with this person because we connect with stories. They're like, guys, meet Samza, as you said his name.
But BASSAM, but some.
Like, what if somehow there was a way to, I don't know the way to do this, but I think it would be cool. Like, there'd be a live on your Instagram or something. Guys, meet Samza. This is Zubin. Look at his line. All these people want him, but he can only generate something. Come on, let's help him out. Whether it's $1, whether it's $5, let's go. All right, we got our first donation, $5. Let's go, guys. All this donation is going to Samza. It's the best oven. It's the best pizza. You know you're going to be a part of the best Moroccan pizza. Have you heard of that?
Bro, that I'm glad that you brought that up because I had that idea. Like I think like I didn't know about the live. I didn't know it was called live selling, but I was like, yo, when I'm with people, like there's some stuff that makes good vlog content, but some stuff would be cool to see live, and I forgot about it.
Dude,
So
there's this
like
Chinese lady. I saw it. And she did, I think, like $30 million in half an hour, and
she
all she
does
did
like that does them like real quick. Yeah, I've seen that. I've seen that. That's
Yeah, that.
crazy.
But what doesn't exist is like the live fundraising because now you're actually seeing it live and people know like, oh, this guy isn't full of shit. It's like there's the owner, there's the pizza place. I'm a pizza lover. Yeah, fuck it, I'll send you $1. But if you multiply that on a global scale, right? And there's gonna be people that might send $1,000, $100, but on a global scale, $1,000 times 1,000 people, it's that pays for his oven. And not only that, that gives you a little bit of extra income to later, you know, fix websites, hire people, things like that. Because you have to, as a business owner, you have to make money. I remember with my restaurant, I had to raise my prices, and I didn't want to do that because I didn't want to leave the market out. But I realized that if I want to help other people, I need to have profit. And that changed my perspective of being selfish because I thought that was being selfish, but it wasn't. I realized like if I'm selfish,
Wait, say that one more time. You thought what was being selfish?
what I told myself and what I learned from the first business that I had was if I'm selfish and I raise my profits to increase my profits, raise my prices to increase my profits, I actually will have more money now to help others. And that's exactly what I did. Every month, I gave away $500 worth of food and gift cards. I created $100 gift cards that I could have never done before. So now I'm helping people that can't afford this with these gift cards, but I have to be selfish in order to do that. I have to make money in order for me to help others. So that was like a deep hard look I had to do at that time. I was like 26, 27, and I had a paradigm shift of that perspective. And it changed my perspective on other business owners that I thought used to be selfish. But I'm like, wait a second, no, this makes sense now. They're making more money, which means that they can help more. Sure, it might look like they're being selfish, but maybe that's the path that they have to. It's like the path of like the hero and the villain. The hero has to look like a villain to help others, but they're
Yeah.
not really. Those who understand it get it, and those who don't. And people like us, we don't give a shit about what people think. So then I realized I'm like, all right, I don't give. If these people think I'm being selfish, then so be it. They have no idea how many other people I'm helping out, and
Right.
that life's unfair. So I'm just gonna accept that.
I like that, bro. I've had to be like, that's why I didn't really want to do the whole like when people told me like create a supporter thing. I'm like, I don't want to feel like I'm like asking people for money. But then I realized like there's multiple people that have been asking me to set that up. So I'm like, that would like everyone else is doing that. Like when they start Uber or any of these companies, like they got to go get investors and get money. So I have to not care about what people think. Like there's some people that are not going to like the fact that I have that, or some people are going to not like that I asked them. But if I really want to, like, if I really want to help this guy and help other people, like it's going to take finances. So it's like you have to, like, I'm not asking it just so I can be rich. It's like I have, like, we need this funds to make those happen. So
Exactly.